you. I love the fact that we started the down going. I'm going to sit in the front with the 2-minute sign so I can tell her blatantly when to get off because, yeah, he knows that I like to talk, so that's good. The joke is on him though, because I spilled a cup of water on the chair that he sat on. And I've not been sat on that chair for the last half an hour because I spilled the water. So Darren, I do apologise. Are we okay? Have I got the... Oh, fantastic. Awesome. Thank you. Ah, brilliant. So, yeah, thank you very much for having me today. I am the last speaker, and then you have your final award. I've had the absolute great pleasure of sitting here listening to everybody who has come before me, and I really have to be honest and say you don't need to hear a word that I'm going to say, because these guys have already said it. I'm somebody who works in this world. I do a lot of talking, and at numerous points today I have been absolutely floored. There has been parts of everybody's story that has spoken to my lived experience, that has spoken to how I feel about my life now. And one of the things that I am constantly processing at the moment is I absolutely am living my dream right now. And I think it was Christopher that said earlier, I think Hakeem said it as well, like, oh my gosh, you know, actually I am stood here and I'm living my dream. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about, I guess, how I got here and what living my dream means to me. But first of all, I just want to swing it back to you guys. And I would like you just to take a moment, you know, you processed so much today. So much, and some of it is going to have aligned with you, some of it is going to have triggered you, some of it is going to have empowered you. But now, before I start talking at you, I want it to really be about you. So please, could you just close your eyes or look to the floor, soften your gaze, and just for a moment, can you just think about why you are sat in this room, okay? What's your why? Why are you here today? Why are you spending your time at this event? Why do you even care? Like, truly, there is so much shit going on in the world. Like, why do you even care? Why are you here right now? Is there anybody brave enough to share? I'm not going to pick on you if you're not, so please don't worry. But if you're happy and confident and willing to put your hand up and share your why, I'd really love to hear it. And you?
I'm in this room today because I want to make a difference in a world where nobody really cares. They say they do, but when you ask them to show and put their actions where their mouth is, they don't. And I want to be around people who align with myself and the struggles that I experienced. And the way I see it, everyone in this room all has one thing in common. We've all had a shit life, and we don't want anyone else to have that same experience, and that's why I'm here.
What's your name?
April.
April, thank you for sharing. If you're in this room because you care, because April just said nobody cares, if you're in this room because you care, will you just stand up for me? We heard earlier on today from your, I'm really bad with names, so I'm going to apologise. I want to call you Samantha and Sarah, I don't know. Yeah, Samantha, thank you, Samantha. You came up and you said something that just absolutely hit me in the heart, and you said, I can be honest and vulnerable here because these are my people. So let's just for a moment, in a world that is really, really bloody hard, look around and remind ourselves, people do care. We're all here. We're all here because we care. But sometimes society and life makes it so bloody hard to be able to help ourselves or help other people. And sometimes this frame of reference that we've got up here, so please sit down if you want to, but equally you can stand if you want. This frame of reference we've got up here is the most powerful tool because we all have such a different frame of reference. And I would really argue, April, that it isn't that people don't care, it's that actually they don't understand or they don't have capacity at this moment to actually help anybody else survive because they're so busy concentrating on survival themselves. In my experiences, there's very few people, there are some, but there are very few people who actually go out into life, into work, and think, I'm going to do a really bad job and I'm going to cause some real harm today. Doesn't mean that doesn't happen, does all of the time. And as the King was talking about probation, my heart was breaking for somebody else who I know is struggling in the exact same way right now, with structures and systems around them that are absolutely disgusting and halting their growth. So I start off with what is my why, but to remind us all really that we've made an active decision to be here, and no matter how much we are struggling right now, I challenge you back that you've got a relative privilege because you're warm, you're disarmament, you've got a roof over your head, and you've got the ability to choose to sit in this room. So for all of us that are struggling, and I will say I struggle every single day in a variety of ways, actually we are also relatively privileged right now, and we're surrounded by wonderful, wonderful people in this room. So what is our why? Where am I going with this? You know, haha, this is my why. These are my babies. They're not quite babies anymore, I know that, but they will always be my babies. And this is us very recently at a Taylor Swift concert. So don't tell me you don't like her, okay? Because we're clearly fans. This is why I do every single thing that I do. These are my daughters, my teenage girls, and every step that I take forward, I think about the life that they are living now. I think about the different life that they're living in comparison to the life I lived at their age. My name is Tammy Banks, and I suffered as a child. Harm, abuse, neglect by the people in my life who were supposed to look after me, that were supposed to protect me. This was the last picture taken where I remember that I was happy. This is the last picture taken where I remember that I was safe. Now, speaking to the story that we just heard, you know, and Samantha's come up here and kind of talked about, like, the normality of chaos, the normality of harm, the normality of disenfranchise, and actually, do you know, the acceptance of it as well? Like, I can look to my family now, and I'm not promising you that they are all different than what they were back then. Do you know, I make my own decisions now to keep myself safe, and have become estranged from different people within my life to be able to move on with my life. I was sat down here earlier when Christopher was telling the story, and it's not often that I get triggered anymore, but things do trigger me. And there was a moment in his story where he was talking about the sun and the moon, and I had nearly the exact same story at the age of 10 years old, talking about watching the clock. And I had to take a moment and I had to leave. And that's because, in the nicest possible way, I'm always now going to put myself before everybody else. Because that is the only way that I can survive with my trauma and the work that I'm doing. Now, I had, my mum left when I was 3 days old, and kind of there's a bit of a story to it and such like, but actually between the ages of 7 and 14 that I experienced, or every adult that came into my life decided that they wanted to harm, abuse or exploit me. And when you look at the cameras of abuse in the Children's Act, if we were playing bingo with them, do you know, I think there's a few of us in this room that would be like right in the top there. So at 14, for me, it was far safer to escape and to live on the streets. And that became the beginning of being homeless as a young girl who already had accepted kind of her fate, and then spending 4 years kind of bouncing around as a teenage girl, trying to survive, trying to feed herself, trying to keep herself safe and clean, and also just trying to minimise, actually, the harm that was happening. It wasn't even trying to avoid it anymore, I kind of just accepted that that's what happens. When I was 16 years old, I walked into a college and insisted that they gave me an education. And I did that because I was expelled from school at the age of 14. And so I had no formative qualifications. And so I walked in and I insisted. Funnily enough, I was very feral, I was full of expletives, I wasn't really given much of a choice, so the security guards just kind of carried me back out. But there was one lady, a tutor, who followed at a safe distance, and she had the emotional resilience, she had skills, she had the empathy, she has the ability to give me, at 16 years old, what I needed right then. And that was just a tiny bit of kindness, a little bit of understanding, and some boundaries. So there's a whole story to that, and you can watch it if you want. It's TED Talk and it's called Homeless Parliament. So I'm not going to kind of give you any more of that because you've heard like everybody's stories, and yes, all of that is really, really important. But so is all of this. So is all of this that is my life now. So what you can see, kind of, you already see my babies. They are without a doubt, they should be the biggest picture on this screen. But then separate to that, you can see that like I've done a couple of TED Talks, I've been given awards to Blind Princess, I've got a few Innovate Awards, I served on the Committee on Standards in Parliament for 6 years, which means I assess, adjudicate, sanction and sack ministers and MPs. I am a fellow of Westminster for Life, like all of this, don't get me wrong, I do know it's all like brilliant and amazing stuff. But it's no more or less me than what came before and what is going to come after. How did I get to this, and why am I up here talking to you today, and kind of what are the kind of points, I guess, and what do I want to share? I want to share with you, I guess, a few things that I'm really, really proud of, but I also want to share, when I said to Darren, you know, Darren, tell me about kind of the audience at the event. And Darren was saying to me, so there's a mix of just amazing people that we've known for years, people that just started coming to Excellent Citizens, people working in partnership with us, commissioners, it's like a whole mix of people. Also, I was supposed to be here this time last year, and I cancelled literally on the day because my daughter was unwell. And I am a sleeper, I do sleeping around, and I rung Darren, and it's the only time I've ever cancelled. And I rung Darren and I said, I'm so sorry. And do you know what his answer was? Don't care, put your daughter first, don't think about it for a second. So do you know, just speaks to, in that moment of crisis, because it was a mental health that she was struggling with, in that moment of crisis, it was just, oh no, it's all good. Which I just think just speaks to everything, doesn't it? Everything that we're saying up here. So what I want to talk to, and what I just want to kind of take a few moments on, is to say what took me from a 7-year-old kind of going through an experience and everything I did, and then again kind of repeating those experiences on the streets, and then also making some choices at that time that I'm super pleased that there were no campgrounds about for. Do you know, super pleased. Do you know, what's taken me from that into the fact that I am absolutely living my dreams now, and that is the recognition of post-traumatic growth. And that is recognising and believing and understanding that I do not start and finish with my lived experience, not by any stretch of the imagination, and that actually my lived experience is what gives me the strength. And my lived experience is personal, but my lived experience is also professional. It's every single step that I take every single day, and I'm not having anybody diminish that. And I work now, and everything that I do now is to champion for equity of lived experience. I'm super fortunate because I have a couple of amazing people in the audience with me today who are part of our team at Transform Your Training. So this is what I do now. And I'm so, so proud of this. Like over my life, after I went into college, the story kind of goes that she let me sit at the back for 6 weeks whilst we went through appeal. I won the appeal and then won an award, got parachuted off to university, still have no GCSEs, but went and worked in H&P Hull, studied to be a forensic psychologist, then managed homeless services for 10 years, then became CEO of a charity, and then realised that everything that I've been doing, and this goes right back to the beginning, is the system is broken. The system is absolutely broken, and it is being held up by good people doing good things within a pressurised society where actually, everybody that I talk to knows the answer. Everybody knows that it's about prevention. Everybody knows that it's about community. Yet still we're going the same kind of cycles. So what did we do and what am I doing now? So all of the work that we've done, about 8 years ago now, I set up a training company. I had absolutely no desire whatsoever to deliver training. Still don't, to be fair. But we do have a national training company that I'm super proud of. And the training company does a couple of different things. So one of the things that we did was come from a trauma-informed lived experience perspective in everything that we do. Now, it was a little bit, somebody said earlier that they became an accidental kind of CEO. Well, this was an accidental business because actually what we couldn't find within the charity that was working to prevent sexual abuse, what we couldn't find was effective trauma-informed training for the people within the team who were going to go and work with people who were already convicted. So they were already high risk, and we couldn't find the training that we needed, so we started doing it ourselves. And because of who we are and where we come from, everything we do comes from lived experience, trauma-informed perspective. So it's very, very accidental, just me and my best friend kind of ranting away at the beginning. Skip forward, and actually what we did was create a train the trainer qualification. So it's now the only qualification in the world actually that's ever been written for delivery to public services and delivery of emotive subjects. And it's a trauma-informed qualification where what we actually do is we use mandatory subjects that people are paying for all of the time in police, probation, local authorities, homelessness services, charities. We take mandatory subjects and we use our golden thread, and all of you will find one under your chair if you want to look. We use our golden thread, which is values-led, equity, trauma-informed working with everybody all of the time. Let's stop doing us and them. I could guarantee that there were some people here that were like, yeah, I'm leading with my lived experience. I can guarantee that there'll be at least another 30% who's just not telling anybody their lived experience at this point because they're not ready to. And that's okay. They may never. But the difference between people with lived experience and people without, when we're honest about it, there's very, very, very little difference. And so we took that golden thread and we put it all the way through our methodology. So now when anybody is out there delivering to public services, all of these different kind of training courses, they're also getting trauma-informed inclusivity lived experience training. We created a 3-month train-the-trainer program that people with lived experience progress through at the same time as people with professional experience. So on the same cohort, you're just as likely to get somebody who has spent 15 years in prison and is on life licence as you are a Crown Prosecution Solicitor. And they go through the same journey together. They're handpicked. You can imagine the conversations, it's amazing. And at the end, they have the same qualification and they are paid the same day rate for delivery. Lived experience isn't about tokenism. It isn't about rolling it out. It isn't about saying, oh, let's tell you what it's really like. If we want to make change, we have to remove the us and them. The thing that's made the difference in my life is at every point I've stepped into the next community. I heard people talking earlier about kind of the different kind of places that they've had the privilege to kind of spend their time and things like that. And I'm just as fortunate. Like I said, I'm lucky enough to be a fellow of Westminster now. What I can tell you is when I started that 6-year-old, I went in with every conscious bias you could possibly imagine and all of the unconscious ones. I went in ready to kind of go, hang on a minute, you people from Eton who know nothing, who are white, middle class, and da 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 da. I spent 6 years there, and I can tell you there is many good people there as there is in this room. There absolutely is, and there is many amazing people trying to fight a ridiculously broken internal system that we have in this country as well. And every single place that I've ever spent my time, whether it is sleeping under a bridge with 6 people, or it is whether it is sitting around the table with 6 people, they are people, are people, are people. Our worries, our concerns, our anxieties are just exactly the same. The only difference is where we were born, the family we were born into, the opportunities that are afforded to us, and education. Do you know, they're the difference, and that's not fair. So for me, it is about equity. And that is what we are creating within our organisation, and we are creating an army of people using our methodology to then deliver to local authorities, to criminal justice, etc. And now I'm so proud that we've got to the point where we're big enough to go right up against the big boys, you know, and align together. And it's just magical, magical stuff to see happen. But I wanted to kind of, I guess, spend the last couple of minutes of my talk before Darren kicks me off here to say, you know, I am proudly, like absolutely proudly, a person with lived experience. I stand up here with all of my experience of harm, abuse and neglect, all of the things that hurt me every single day still, you know, they are part of my story. I stand up here with my experiences of homelessness and the fact that I have done many things that I'm not proud of, but I'm not going to do them again. I heard you say, McKean, I heard you say I'm not going back there. I am not going back there. You cannot pay me. There is no money that would take me back there. But I am taking it forward with me, and I am recognising what I need in that journey, and I am not going to be exploited, and I'm not going to be rolled out. Nobody is going to treat me in a totalistic way, because I am worth far more than that. Now, I do have trauma. I have a bucket load of trauma, but I also have a bucket load of strategies and ways to recognise it and work within it. I have these emotions. I also have ADHD, which means my emotional regulation is shot to pieces, you know, so I have to like put all of these structures into place. But I also have this creative, systematic brain. So for me, with what we're doing at Transformative Training, for me with our methodology, we're going for that system, and we're absolutely going to be having national professional standards for training, so that all training across frontline services in 10 years' time, this is my promise to you, will be trauma-informed, lived experience, equitable training, because that is the mission that I'm on. But whilst we're doing that, every day, 15 or 20 training sessions will be happening directly, and those people will be able to change their lives immediately, because we can't only look to changing the system, we have to think about the person in front of us today as well. So I just want to leave you with just something, with just kind of finishing on, I guess the piece of knowledge, like when I really drill down to it, the piece of knowledge that I think transformed everything for me. And I then have built my business on it, because now it is the golden thread, and everything I do with my children and in my life is considering this. And that is about the impact of the biological impact of trauma on the brain. And so just a couple of things to say, you know, for those, and some of you will know this far better than me, but some of you will have never have heard it before. You know, when we've experienced trauma, we are naturally, biologically, our brain goes into this place where it's always in fight or flight, you know, and our nervous system is going all of the time. And our window of tolerance is super small, so actually we can respond, and we can really respond, you know, and that's where these big 6 emotions come. And we need strategies in place to be able to kind of manage that. And the understanding of of the difference between kind of the biological part of our brain and then the reasoning part of our brain is the element that goes throughout our trainer course, so that people can own kind of the decisions that they're making. So I'm going to let Becky, who's one of our facilitators in this next video, and it's literally 1 minute, I promise you, Darren, and then it's the last slide. I'm going to let Becky just explain to you, in case you've never had it before, and then I'm going to say to you, please go and find out a little bit more about this. Because if you haven't heard about this, literally it's impacting everything we do, because it is transformative. It will change your life, and it will change everybody's life that you work with as well. Whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Upstairs. My logical part of the brain was trying to help, and I was talking to myself as such, as we do.
Don't worry, I'll tell you when it's going to start. So, yeah, just keep going.
Mostly saying you won't see it again. It's probably more scared of you than you are of it. But it's not connected. My emotional part was still fully in control. I could not physically move for about 20 minutes and was actually getting quite upset. So let's quickly sum up the hand model of the brain and remember what's going on when someone is feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or anxious. So the bottom of our palm and the wrist is our brainstem. This is the survival part. It controls things, like I said, like breathing, heart rate, and our basic instinct to respond to danger. Our thumb represents the limbic system, the emotional part of the brain. This includes the amygdala, which helps us recognise threats and activates our emotional responses. And our fingers are our prefrontal cortex, the thinking part or the logical part of our brain. It helps with problem solving, empathy, decision making, and staying calm. When we're stressed or overwhelmed, the emotional brain takes over and the thinking brain, temporarily, goes offline. That's why it's so hard to reason or concentrate in those moments. When we feel safe and supported, the brain can then reconnect and all of those parts can work together again.
I'm trying to move to the next slide and it's not working. Thanks. And then, yeah, thank you. So if you haven't heard about that, you know, there's so much more to know, but it's just so powerful to recognise that actually we can engage our thinking brains to absolutely kind of take over and control our emotional part of our brain. What I also recommend, what underpins everything, is then the trauma-informed approach when you've understood and when you process kind of the difference in the brain from that perspective. But then I just wanted to finish then, I guess, by saying kind of a few things. So the first thing is, thank you to Expert Citizens for actually enabling and making everybody here feel safe today. You know, that's not an easy thing to do. And I've spoken to so many different people that have said, actually, this is where I show up, this is where I feel safe. Thank you to all of the speakers who have actually, you know, really championed the equity of lived experience. That is a mission that I'm very much on at the moment. But these are the things that when I think back to actually, you know, if I have to give those key kind of points to finish on, these are things for me. You know, trauma doesn't have to defeat you. It can be a perfect opportunity for growth. Doesn't mean I'll go back and do it again by any stretch of the imagination, but I've already done it. So actually, you know, I'm going to grow from it. I'm going to take what I need from that. Applying trauma-informed principles to yourselves before others is completely game-changing. There's been periods in my professional life where I've burnt out time again because I'm such a giving person and I want to help the world. Trauma-informed principles are my safety net. If you're doing everything you can within your current capacity, that's all you can do. So if you wake up on a Monday morning and you're having a difficult time with your kids, or you know, you've been triggered about something, or you're struggling, or whatever, and you can't help somebody else, that's okay too. That is absolutely okay too. You have to work within your own capacity, because if you're not okay, nobody else is. And then the last thing, going back to the lived experience leveling that we heard about earlier, you know, absolutely. Please strive for the equity of lived experience. challenge tokenism at every single opportunity and demands to be treated with equal value because we are worth it. Thank you.